I'm Mark Boris, and this is Straight Talk.
Jim Jefferies, welcome to Straight Talk, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Jim Jefferies.
Australia's biggest comedic export.
I need it for protection. Is that why they're called assault rifles? Is it? I wanted to be a professional comic from the age of 11, and that was all Eddie Murphy's Delirious. James Packer's birthday party. Al Pacino and Warren Beatty and Leonardo DiCaprio and Eddie Murphy comes in. I know you. He goes, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm going to do stand-up for the dinner party. And he goes, there is no way that's going to work out. And then he left, and I was like, oh, no. My favourite comedian said, I've just got an unachievable task. Am I losing out? And I went, will you fuck off? Like, I went for it like that. Me and Piers have no problem anymore because my wife wouldn't have married me unless I told him to fuck off. I've never said this joke, right? This is the first time I'm going to say this joke, right?
Jim Jefferies, welcome to Straight Talk, mate.
Thanks for having me.
How cool is it to be back in Australia?
I love coming back to Australia. Doing the 1% Club has allowed me to come back more often than I used to. I used to do like a tour about once every 2 years, and now I get to come back every year and do the show. Plus I get to do a tour, and my dad's not getting any younger, and I try to see him as much as possible. And I always try to sort of have it happening when America's on school holidays and Australia's not. So I got my kids coming down, but it seems like we always come here in the winter, because they're on summer break.
It's pretty fucked at the moment. It's pretty cold.
Oh, it's not too bad, actually. I thought it was going to be colder, but we've been staying out in Bondi and, look, we're not going to be getting in the water anytime soon, but we'll have a gelato and some, fish and chips. That's all my son talks about is fish and chips and Australian prawns and eating Golden Gay times. I've got these American kids who I think, well, the 3-year-old doesn't say anything, but the 11-year-old thinks that there's a bit of cachet in being Australian. So if I watch him and he's playing like, Fortnite with his mates, he'll go like, go around the back. All right, shoot him. Now cover me. Thanks, mate. And then he'll just slip a mate in there. It's always weird when the word mate, whenever an Australian says mate, like every other culture in the world, they always try to push their greeting onto others. So you go to Hawaii and it's aloha. We all say aloha here. Aloha. You go to Japan, konnichiwa. We all say konnichiwa. Australians, we all say g'day, mate. But doesn't it sound terrible when a tourist says it?
It sounds really bad. But you're not really a tourist. I mean, would you call him?
No, but when an American goes, g'day, mate, you're like, don't, that's not your word.
Yeah, dude, drop off. So, by the way, I was just thinking about myself this morning when I knew you were coming in. I thought, I reckon Jim must be one of Australia's biggest, definitely, let's call it comedic exports.
Yeah.
Would you be? And what's it feel like to be that dude?
It's different now, but for stand-up comedy, for the longest time, I was. But I'll never, for comic performers, I'll never beat Paul Hogan. Paul Hogan's the biggest ever.
Yeah, but not stand-up.
But for stand-up, yes. But it's a different world now, so you're going to get a lot more now. So right up until about 10 years ago, and 10 years ago, I was the first. I was one of the first 5 people to get a Netflix special. They brought 5 specials out at once. Now, incidentally, those 5 specials were me, Bill Burr, Chelsea Handley, and Chelsea Peretti. But the 5th comic, it never aired because his name was Bill Cosby. So Netflix came out and they said, Netflix is a joke and we're going to do specials. Because before that, it was all HBO and Showtime that did specials. And those specials may or may not have aired in the UK or in Australia. But because of Netflix now, there's no conquering America. There's no conquering Britain anymore. It's just conquering the world because everything's streamed at once. So when I went over and did the UK, I started my comedy career out there. Then I went over and did America, and I had to keep going back to cities and getting repeat customers. But now you've got comedians like I saw the other day, Theo Vaughn came out here and sold out big arenas. He's never been to Australia before, you know what I mean? But because he's on Netflix and the podcast world, where people can just stream podcasts and all that so all media now is international, where it wasn't international 10 years ago. So me being arguably the biggest Australian comedian worldwide 10 years ago, there'll be people who will overtake me because they're all just going to be now comedians are just going to be universal, and they weren't universal before. So I'm probably only going to have that crown for a very short time.
Fucking hang on to it though.
Well, people probably argue like Hannah Gatsby won, like she won Emmys and stuff like that. And I think she got paid a lot more money for her stand-up specials than me. But I don't know if the ticket sales were the same. But it's not a competition, is it?
Bullshit. Totally. Well, speaking of, I got to ask you straight up.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Nugent.
Yeah, Jeffrey Nugent.
How did you get Jim Jefferies out of Jeffrey Nugent?
Okay, so my full name is Jeffrey James Nugent, and so Jeffrey with a G. I always kind of disliked the name Jeffrey because my mother was a very strict individual. Right up until the day she died, she was a very strict individual. She wouldn't let my friends call me Jeff or anything like that. It was always Jeffrey with a G. It sounded very, Jeffrey Nugent sounded very prim and proper type of a name. So I went on to do, and Nugent's not a very popular name in Australia. It's more well known in America or in Ireland or something like that. But I went on stage and I think it was Adam Hills, but I'm not completely sure.
As Jeffrey Nugent.
As Jeffrey Nugent, my first gig, 17 years old. Or maybe 18 years old. And they said, please welcome to the stage, Godfrey Nugent. and there's no D in there or anything, but I went, Godfrey Nugent. Godfrey Nugent isn't a very rock and roll name, is it? And so I thought I'll change it for one show, changed it to Jeffrey James, which was just took my last name off. And that didn't sound right. And then I thought maybe Jim Jefferies and then the alliteration. So I changed it. And it was just like a decision that took me minutes, and I was just like, all right, Jim Jefferies, how about that? I'll give that a go. And I remember, incidentally, I actually ran it past my parents what they thought, because I didn't want to disappoint them, like changing their name, the name I was given. My kids have, so I never legally changed my name. I'm still legally Jeffrey Nugent. My kids have the legal name of Jefferies. Right, and
as in when they were born, you registered them.
Yeah,
on
I registered them.
I
gave them my stage name, and I just did that because I just didn't want it to be really difficult. Why do you have a different name from me? And why do my wife kept her name? So all three of us have different names on our passports, and we try to get through the airport, and it's very difficult.
So does your passport say Jim Jefferies?
Jeffrey Nugent.
Jeffrey Nugent.
Well, I've always thought I'll legally change it, but you know what? Sometimes it's nice to have two names. Like if I'm ringing up and I want to quote on something to get fixed in my house, well, Jim Jefferies has got money, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Jeffrey Nugent doesn't have any money. You're not gonna bump his quote up, right?
Well, Godfrey Nugent got none.
Yeah, Godfrey Nugent's got nothing, right? So I use one name when I need it, another name when I need it.
That's pretty cool, actually. I can call you Jimmy two names or Jeffrey two names.
I don't respond to Jeffrey. I don't turn around anymore. It took years for that. And I got one of my brothers calls me Jim and one of them calls me Jeffrey and my dad still calls me Jeffrey and he's not going to change anytime soon. So
can we just go back to when we were talking about your parents?
Sure.
Born in Sydney?
Yeah.
What's the deal?
My father in 1969 bought a block of land in St Ives, Sydney. And he built the house himself.
He's a builder?
My father's a carpenter.
Yeah.
Right? And he built it over time himself. And the whole block of land on a dirt road cost him, I believe, $16,000 was the whole investment, block of land and the property for a house in St Ives. I always find it weird whenever you say anyone from Sydney will know the name St Ives, and everyone always thinks it's really fancy. They go, "Oh, you St Ives, ooh," like that. We were a very working class family. But that's my dad's best investment he ever did, I think, buying a block of land in St Ives in 1969. Yeah.
Well, that'd be worth a fair bit of dough now. Is he still there?
He still lives in the same house that he built. Little, very small house, bloody tiny. He still lives in the same house that he's 82 or 83 and he still lives in the same house.
And he's in good shape?
He's got a few health conditions as all 83-year-olds, but he's of sound mind. Let's put it this way. He could run the free world.
Yeah, like Joe Biden.
He's young enough to run to be president. You know what I mean? I think he could out-debate Biden. That's pretty good.
It's sort of a low bar, though.
Yeah. He wouldn't
How
take.
about Trump?
He wouldn't take a bullet as good as Trump. I'll tell you that much.
Well, we're going to talk about Trump.
A bit more gingerly get to his feet, I reckon. But no, he's in good health. Yeah.
And you've got a brother? Did you say you had
Two older brothers.
Two older brothers.
And
where'd you go to school up there?
St Ives High.
St Ives High. So you went to the state school system.
State school system.
Good
St Ives
student.
No, terrible student. Very dyslexic. To this day, reading is my kryptonite. I find it very hard to read.
Please explain what you mean by dyslexic, like as in words don't
The
go in the
words
same
muddle
shape.
around. I find reading out loud very panicky to this day. And even when I'm doing the 1% Club, I have to read a teleprompt.
Yeah.
And if anyone who's been a contestant on the show, they'll know that even now I stutter a little bit, and the lead-ins and the outros and stuff like that, that's hard work for me. But when we did the Jim Jefferies show in America, I used to have to just sit there and do a 30-minute show from top to bottom. And in the end, I got rid of the teleprompt and just really put points in there, and I memorized the jokes as much as I could, So I'm all right when I'm just talking, but I find reading out loud very hard. I had, a few dyslexia. I don't believe it, but I got diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, which later a doctor in my adult life said that I was probably autistic. But I still to this day, I got a few social cue problems. I find it very hard to make eye contact. I keep on reminding myself through this interview just to look up and all that type of stuff. And if I'm at parties, but the thing I do with my wife is my wife stands next to me at parties and every now and again reminds me to ask people questions about their life. And I go, just making sure I ask something about them. And I go, and how long have you two been married?
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not that I'm a bad dude or nothing. I've spent my whole career just basically talking to myself. That's all stand-up comedy is, working by myself, talking to myself. And so even if I do an interview like this, you won't even have to ask a question. I'll just keep talking until I don't like silences. And so
That's very interesting what you just said about, I want to come back to you growing up in a minute, but I just want to quickly advance to that point. I've often had a theory too, like when you address an audience, a big audience, it doesn't matter whether the fucking audience, whatever the size, I don't reckon you're actually talking to the audience, you're talking to yourself the whole time. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, you're giving opinions and you're telling stories and all that type of stuff, but you need the response from them. It is a relationship. It isn't just yourself, but I see them as not thousands of people or 100 people. I see them as one unit that I'm talking to. One group. And so like when people say, oh, there's a bad crowd or whatever like that, they're not all bad. I've done shows in front of 8,000 people and they weren't a great crowd. And I've done shows in front of 8 people who were banging. It's just the ratio of good to bad,
I guess it also depends where you are. If you're in Texas or something like that.
Well, I've played all over America. I played all over the world, and next year I'll be touring Europe and the UK, and this year I'm touring Australia as my overseas tour, and me and Jimmy Carr are doing a double act thing in Canada, across Canada. We're doing, not when I say double act, the tours, we're doing a double headline thing. We're doing that in different ice hockey arenas in front of Canadians, so looking forward to working with another comic, and then, but also like last year I did Asia. And then I'm going to do Europe again, but this next tour I'm going to do places in Europe I haven't been. I'm going to go to I know this isn't all Europe, but Turkey and Morocco and different little places that I haven't been on tour before, And I try to take the family and sort of see the world that way, a bit Partridge Family.
But that's a Partridge Family. Not many people don't even know what you're talking about. I remember Partridge Family well. So if I go back to that, when you weren't a great student, you had a bit of dyslexia.
Terrible student.
Maybe they said you had a bit of ADHD. In other words,
I don't think I did. I think that was just something that was overdiagnosed. And I also think that a lot of things with attention deficit disorder, because I wasn't disruptive very much, but I think that sometimes they overdiagnose personalities. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I know there's people with attention deficit disorder that will completely disagree with that and think it's a real thing. But I personally think that I was over-medicated.
Oh, you were medicated for it too?
Yeah, I was taking so much Ritalin, my hands still shake.
Wow.
And I was
From
taking...
what age?
9.
Oh my God.
And by the time I was 15, I was taking about 6 to 8 Ritalins a day. My mother would wake me up with a Ritalin and a glass of orange juice. So the first thing as my eyes opened, a pill would be put in my mouth.
Quick shot of the amphetamines?
Yeah, and so and I've been very open about my drug usage throughout my life, and to this day, amphetamines don't do much to me.
Yes, there's no point.
Yeah, there's no point. They don't do much to me. They just sit on me, you know. And but I got off them about 16. I didn't take them for the rest because I thought my hands started twitching all the time, and I thought this can't be good for you doing all this thing. You know?
That's a big decision for a 16-year-old, mate.
Yeah, but then I still took other drugs as an older person. I got into that game sort of a bit late, living in England and all that type of stuff. I never say that I was a drug addict or something like that, but I went pretty hard with drugs.
Yeah, like, but more recreational. It wasn't like
recreational,
not day
yes,
to day,
recreational, not day to day. But yeah, I was doing them pretty. It depends if there was a comedy festival on, or I was just sitting at home. If I was sitting at home, I was never doing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think most people won't admit it, but I reckon just about everywhere in Australia, especially these days. I mean, like we're sitting here right now in the middle of these suburbs, mate. There's just about every dude and girl in these suburbs takes cocaine every fucking Friday night and Saturday night.
Well, there's
it's mentally.
See, when I was doing it in England for £50 a gram.
That's
versus
cheap.
Versus what is it, $300 and something here, and then I'm going to have to be open with my sons about it because I've been open about talking about it so much that they'll be able to see footage of me talking about it. And now with the fucking fentanyl in America, people are dying. It's just not
as a substitute because they're putting fentanyl in and people think it's cocaine. Whatever.
Yeah, the fentanyl. People, I know people have dropped dead. Like it's rampant in America. People fucking dropping dead from fentanyl.
Wow.
And these are people who aren't drug addicts. They're just taking a line here, line there, and they're bloody dropping dead. And I know it hasn't really hit Australia, but you don't want that fucking shit coming over here. I hear that the bikies put an article saying anyone who cuts our products. You know what I mean? Like bloody terrible stuff. So I haven't taken drugs in a very long time. So I'm not just talking about someone who did it last week, but there's been some incidences in the comedy community. So people I know who just like that one line, bang.
Jesus.
You need a amount that's like a grain of sand up your nose, and you're gone. Bloody terrible.
Well, someone says like 100 times more lethal than heroin.
Heroin, yeah.
Like it's a shit drug.
And so they fucked with it too much. You know what I mean? They fucked with it too much. Back in the day, pills and ecstasy and all that, they had a wonderful time. And then the fucking assholes bloody fucked with it.
If you weren't a great student, then how did you end up? In terms of study, like what did you end up doing? Like after school,
hardly passed school. I got what you would call in your HSC. You had that rank score, and 100 being the best, and all that stuff. And I got 34.
Not great.
Not great, but better than I thought I would. And then I went and studied at WAPA, the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts, which was more famous than anything for having Lisa McEwen and Hugh Jackman went there. And I went and studied musical theatre there for 1 year, and then I didn't get through to the next bit of the course. And then I went and did opera singing for the last little bit because but I was really just buying time until I could be a professional comedian. And that's what I wanted to be as a little tiny kid.
Oh, really?
I wanted to be a professional comic from the age of 11, and I was obsessed with comedy from before that. And that was all Eddie Murphy's Delirious. So you got to. So this is what my point is. We're going to have some amazing comics come out of Australia now. We're going to have we've always had world-class comics, but we're going to have people who are going to be so big coming out of this country because they're getting exposure, which I never got, right? So my first experience with George Carlin was he was Rufus of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I never saw a George Carlin special. I never saw an HBO special, someone doing comedy for an hour. All we had was people doing comedy for about 5 minutes on a late night show on Steve Vizard once a month, maybe. You'd get a comedian. And they had a TV show on the ABC called The Big Gig. And The Big Gig, Wendy Harmer and different comics were on there. And they were doing a great job, but they were all doing 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. So they put a bit of music in between. And I used to lap that up. And the big show for me in high school was the Late Show with Mick Malloy and all that, and Rob Sitch. I used to love that show. And look, I'm working with Mick Malloy tonight, and I would never say this to him, and I hope he doesn't listen to me saying it. But
everybody's listening. But
it's so wonderful to call a hero of mine a friend. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
But he doesn't know that. So the difference between my parents didn't buy comedy albums. There was no way, there was no cable TV. There was no way to watch an hour-long comedy special in Australia except for one special, and that was Eddie Murphy's Delirious and Eddie Murphy's Raw eventually, but that stayed Delirious. And Delirious was available at the video store because it was the first special ever that was a cinematic release. So it was counted as a movie. So it was released in the movies. And it just so happened that when I'm fucking 11 years old, I have an 18-year-old brother who can rent that video, right? So my 18-year-old brother, who has since become a cop, it was showing R-rated movies to children. So we should pull him up on that. But
He pulled himself up.
Yeah, we should get that bloke, But so we had Delirious, and my brother's rented it a few times, and I used to wait. Like if my father went, he's doing a bit of gardening for 10 minutes, I'd put it in the video player and watch 10 minutes, and then sneak another 5 minutes because I wasn't allowed to watch it. Sneak another, and I just thought it was so amazing, like a bloke. And it's still to this day, it's sort of why I wear like leather shirts on stage. Was Eddie Murphy was in like a leather outfit looking like Elvis, just with the red and the thing with the shirt open. And at that stage, he was maybe 21 years old or something. And then he's off to do Beverly Hills Cop. And I thought that guy was just everything to me, just telling these long-winded stories. And to this day, I think I probably modeled myself more on him than anything. And then by the time I was 16, Anthony Morgan, the Australian comedian who always used to do the side pieces on Vizard, and I used to watch Vizard. He did a show. There was a theatre called the Harbour Theatre or something, which is underneath the Harbour Bridge. I think on the east side and on the north side. But he, I fake ID'd it and went and saw Anthony Morgan, and that was the first time I'd seen stand-up comedy live. And the guy was on stage for an hour and a half, and I thought that was just wonderful. And I've still never met Anthony, and he doesn't do much comedy, but I'd love to give that guy a hug because that was a real pivotal moment in my life, was actually seeing someone. And there was only a couple hundred people there, but I thought that was fantastic because the idea of, I'm going to say something very arrogant here. I'm a better fucking entertainer than Beyonce. Fuck yeah, I am. Too right I am. Right?
On what basis, though? Explain it.
Let's see her do it without fucking dancers and choreographed routines and fucking lights and a backup band. Let's see her get out there and entertain people with nothing but a microphone, right? And that's really what it is.
That's a fair point. Yeah,
with nothing but a microphone, right? I can entertain. I've sold out the Rod Lever. I can entertain 10,000 people just with a microphone and a spotlight, right? And I know lots of other people who can do this. I'm not alone on this. There's loads of comedians. But I remember having so much respect for Anthony Morgan when I left that room, thinking that was something special.
But what was it? What was the
because I'd seen people talk in front of rooms full of people, and they were fucking boring, and they were called school teachers. You know what I mean? I'd seen people stand up and chat with us, and it was always just such a if you see now, you go to any conference or anything, and someone walks up and they get to the podium, there's an element of how long is this going to be, right? And anyone can do it for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Anyone can do it for, like stand-up can do real punchy, a best man speech at a wedding or something like that. But an hour? People are going to get bored now. If you can hold people's attention hour plus, that's something else, So I thought more than seeing, I've seen Paul McCartney in concert. I've seen, great art. I've Elton John,
great musicians.
Great musicians. And it's amazing when you watch them, going, how do they play all these instruments and all that type of stuff? But at the end of the day, they've still got that trick in front of them, and they've still got... So the big difference between music and comedy is, I don't know why musicians even bother naming their fucking tours, because there's been bands that I like. Like I've seen Oasis live 15 times. The tour is always the same. They can name it something else, but it's always the fucking same, right? Because the big difference between comedy and music is when you're watching comedy, you only want to hear the new stuff.
Yeah.
When you're watching music, you only want to hear the old stuff. When they play a new song, they're like, fuck, play something off the old albums.
Yeah.
Right? And if I play one of my old jokes, I haven't put enough effort in. So musicians, they can sort of sit back on a few hits and keep on bringing them out all the time. If you do stand-up comedy at a certain level, once you record a joke, you have to, not everybody, like Seinfeld has a different theory on this. He reckons you keep the jokes going all the time. But if you record a joke, you should retire a joke after it's recorded, right? So I got 9 specials and a CD. So I got recorded plus TV spots, I don't know, 12 hours of stand-up or something like that, but it's all different stuff. You know, some of it's better than others and some of it's a bit more fillery than others, and then there's some more iconic pieces and stuff like that. But no one wants to hear me come out and just crack on about gun control again because I've done it, you know. So there's a bigger workload, I think, involved in live touring for a comedian.
Well, that's something I want to talk to you about because, I mean, it's funny you should say that because, I mean, I'm always looking for comedy. And I go into YouTube usually because I'm sick of looking on Netflix. There's a lot of old stuff on there, and I've seen it all. And I've watched you, and you mentioned Bill Burr. And
Love Bill Burr.
And he's hilarious.
Lovely man.
I like the way he gets sort of yells at me and gets me thinking about myself.
He is going to slip very easily into being an old man. He's already curmudgeon-y, but he's a sweet guy. He's lovely.
No, but I like his content. But it's funny you should say what you said because I keep going through it. No, have I fucking seen that one or not? And because I don't want to see it again. Same as you. When I look at your stuff, I don't want to see it again. You're right.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting between that and the difference between a singer or a musician because you're right. When it comes to musician, what the fuck? Where are all the old songs?
Because you want to tap your foot along with the music.
Is it more memory or nostalgia?
You want to tap your foot along with the music and know when the chorus is coming. And with comedy, you want to be surprised.
Right. Okay. So music is about being familiar. Comedy is about being surprised.
Yeah. Music's about memories.
Surprise me.
Yeah. You want to hear a joke?
Yeah. Give me one.
I don't have a.
You don't have one?
I'll tell you a pub joke.
Yeah, go on.
Let me think of it. Okay. This joke is a name drop for you. Was told to me by Jay Leno. Right.
Wow.
Whenever anyone asks for a pub joke, this is the pub joke I give. Right. So who knows who wrote this? But what's the pub joke? He goes. So there's a guy finds a genie's bottle. Right. And he rubs it. And the genie comes out and he goes, "You have 2 wishes." And the guy went, "I thought I get 3 wishes." He goes, "Check your pants." And he looks down, he's got a great big dick. And the genie goes, "I've been doing this a long time." That's a good pub joke, right?
Totally.
And the good thing about that joke is now you can tell it to your friends and you can tell it to your friends and then it'll spread like a fucking STD and everyone will enjoy it, just like an STD.
Just like a good dick joke. So, but what was it then about Eddie Murphy that actually got you enthralled about being a comedian? Like, was it his content? Was it about how the accolades he got? Was it the fact that he just made you fucking laugh?
He made me laugh, but also just cool, man. He's just a cool dude because I don't know
what that means, cool man. Like, what do you mean?
He's just cool, man. It's like before Eddie Murphy, right? So there's arguments with comedy where you can have higher status and lower status than the crowd, right? You can be above them or below them. For the most part, British comedy and somewhat Australian comedy, and definitely New Zealand comedy for some reason, the comedian normally has a lower status, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, like...
That's a thing, is it?
Yeah, so like Mr. Bean, bumbling idiot, right? Frank Spencer, bumbling idiot, right? Eddie Murphy, cool, right? Being the same as everyone in the audience it's not funny, you know. So like John Cleese could play above and below, depending on what sketch he did. He could do above or below, and so. But Eddie Murphy was always cooler than I could ever fucking be, man. Cooler than I could ever be. And I've met him twice, and you know I've met a lot of famous people doing this job, and but Eddie Murphy's the most starstruck I've been to meet a human being. And I met him once at James Packer's birthday party where I was employed to be the entertainment. And I was sitting in the kitchen. Mariah Carey had paid for me to be the...
This must be a couple of years ago then.
Yeah, Mariah Carey. Yeah, it's not recent.
If it was Mariah Carey, it would be a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, this is before COVID.
Yeah, before COVID. That's when they were engaged.
Yeah, when they were engaged. And so I was in the kitchen. And I normally don't do corporate gigs, but the money was right and the whatever, right? And I'm sitting in the kitchen. I'm meant to be the surprise birthday gift. You know, you're a wealthy man. You know how it is, right? When you guys don't, you rich people, you don't get presents, do you? You get other human beings performing tricks, right? You buy experiences.
Yeah, no, 100%. You're right.
Experiences rather than material things, because any material thing you want, you can get. But then every now and again, someone will go, "I just bought you a thing to go do this thing, to go drag race a car." Oh, brilliant! Because you never would have bought that for yourself.
Yeah, and
right?
you're right.
Right, so I waddle. I'm in the kitchen waiting to go out, and I'm shitting myself. And then Al Pacino and Warren Beatty and Leonardo DiCaprio and all these people are at this bloody dinner, right? And I'm sitting there in the dressing room, in the kitchen, being hidden away, and they've given me a meal. I got the same meal as them, but I'm off in the kitchen by myself. And Eddie Murphy comes in, and I can't do the impersonation, but he walks up to one of the.
Oh, he was there too.
Yeah, he was there. He walks up to one of the catering people. He goes, I need a soda or something, a little drink or a thing. Like this, right? And he looked at me, and I used to have a sitcom called Legit that was on FX. And in that, I had it was based on a true story, but I had a friend who was disabled, right? And he goes, I know you. He goes, you do the TV show with the disabled boy, right? And you knew my show. You knew my show. And I was like, yeah, I do this. He goes, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm going to do stand-up for the dinner party. And he goes, there is no way that's going to work out. And then he left, and I was like, oh, no. My favorite comedian said, I've just got an unachievable task. And this is a man who something else I respect about Eddie Murphy is he respected stand-up comedy so much that when he stopped doing it, he never dipped his toe back in again. Because he knew what it took to be at that level. And if he could, and it's very hard for Eddie Murphy to get back to that level because where does he try out material? Where does he go and do 5 minutes where it's not every camera's out going Eddie Murphy? How does he build a set? He can never build a set again because too many people will document the work in progress. And so he can't get up at the Improv on a Wednesday and have a go. So I know for a fact that Netflix have offered him, they've backed up money trucks to his house for him to do a stand-up special. More money than anyone would have ever been paid to do stand-up. And they've ummed and ahed, and I've heard through people, oh, it's going to happen, and it hasn't happened yet. And he hasn't done stand-up. I don't reckon he's done stand-up in over 30 years.
Is it because he doesn't need to, or he became
a movie star, stopped doing it, and he respected it enough not to go back to it because he couldn't, as I said, he couldn't develop the material. He couldn't build it and get it to a stage that he was happy.
Because you say that so nonchalantly. Can you explain it to me? Like, so, like in terms of building a show, what do you got to do? You got to go sort of pre-test things, validate things.
Yeah, well, you got it. What I do is many comics will go down and just sort of do a joke and then try it out. And if I got a new joke, I will wedge it in between two bits that I know work. And then just slip in the joke because it might be gangbusters, it might be weak, and if it is weak,
but the joke's a bit of a theme, though. So
at the moment, like, okay, so when we're recording this, yesterday there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. I'm getting up at the Comedy Store tonight, and I got some things that I'm gonna do, but I don't expect it to nail it tomorrow, but maybe 3 or 4 times in, I'll get it good, right? Now, I can afford to do that because I've got good jokes that I've been doing for a year or so on either side of that joke. But Eddie Murphy can't do that because the whole set's new. The whole set's new. If he could just go down and say, I've got 5 minutes I want to try, but no one wants to hear him do 5 minutes. And he can't, if he goes down to the comedy club, as I said, they'll bring all the phones out. And the joke from its infancy to when it's fully developed is going to be vastly different. And that's why we get so angry. There's several reasons and people don't understand that comedians get so angry with people videotape, like with their phones up in the show.
That makes sense.
Now, music concerts, no one gives a fuck because, as I said, it's old songs.
No, they want them to. They want to stream it.
They want to stream it. They want to put it on. They tell everyone you're having a great time.
Yeah.
I don't want the person who's about to see me to know the punchline.
Yeah.
I want to still surprise them. And I don't want it recorded until I think the joke's ready to record. Till I'm happy with it, then I'll record it, right? But I don't want the work in progress to be put out there. And so a lot of comedians, Dave Chappelle, for example, just off the top of my head, has started using these pouches that you put your phone in and then you put the tag over the top and then your phone's sealed and you can't open it back up and then pull your phone out to afterwards. And it has made shows really good, but I'm a cheap bastard. To have that at the theatre costs about $7,000. I'm like, fuck it, we'll do it.
But would you ask people to put the phone away?
Yeah, there's signs up, please do not videotape the thing.
Right.
And if I see you do it, I'll ask you, I say, can you please put your phone? I'll do it in the middle of a joke, please put your phone down, like that. But people think you're being precious or something, but you're not. And also, it's not music. We're not all singing along. You have to, I don't want you to miss it. I don't want you to miss the joke. Or the you got to be focused. And if you're texting or whatever, or you're not... It's the same as driving. Just keep your eyes on the road, man.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's very interesting. So when you say joke, though, I'm not a comedian. So when you say joke, do you mean a
routine?
Yeah. So, but it's like a thematic, like for example, something about gun control. For argument's sake, is that what you're talking about? That's
the gun control's a routine, and inside that routine, there's maybe 30 jokes.
Right.
I haven't watched that routine back ever, but I would say it was 14 minutes long, and so in that, if the math's right, you want to have a laugh at least at every 20 seconds. There's probably 30, 40 laughs in there. So they're the actual jokes in the routine.
So you actually, so there is a structure. There is actually so you're just not standing up there just free balling. No. You actually got a structure. For example,
I don't really write anything down. I sort of think of a joke, and then the best way to write it is on stage. And then you just sort of come up with a theme. And, look, the problem is now, the 1,000 comics putting 1,000 clips online and all the people who tweet out a joke and all those things. So, everything's sort of been said. You try and put your original take on it, but it's very hard now to come up with a truly, truly original one line because everyone's on Twitter or X as it is. So at the moment, like... I'll say what I'm working on right now. This is what I've never said this joke, right? This is the first time I'm going to say this joke, right? So at the moment, who's the name of the kid who bloody shot Trump? It was something Thomas Cooper Marks or something.
Yeah,
I know I've got that wrong. It's
something
like that.
Yeah.
Thomas Cooper Marks, and then you had John Wilkes Booth, and then you had Lee Harvey Oswald. I go, it's these three names, these three names. I'd be watching out for. Michael J. Fox, although I assume he would miss, right?
Yeah.
So that's the premise. Now, without a doubt, probably people have done the aligned with John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald and all that type of stuff. But you just try to make your own little sort of thing, and then, now that's the core of this routine, right? The core of the routine that I'm going to try out is that little tiny punchline about Michael J. Fox and naming those three names 3 times, and so. But that routine might become 5 minutes because I might go off on a tangent about Michael J. Fox and I might go whatever. And I won't know that until I'm on stage and I hear the groan from the audience and I rebuttal and then go back and forth. And so all I know is that little bit now, but I don't know what it will become.
Because you're waiting for the response.
I'm waiting for the response. And I don't know if that punchline will do well yet. And whether it needs a little bit of finessing or whether the joke needs to be a bit harder or more aggressive or it needs to be softer. I don't know where it's going to head
In terms of aggressive, you mean a little bit more confronting?
Yeah. Or whether I just have to there's a few ways you can either tell the audience what it's all about or you can basically go, I think this, you know what I mean, and soften your way into it. And sometimes the softer way is to get into a really offensive joke, and I would like someone to one day do a mathematical equation on.
Well, that's because that's what I'm thinking as you're talking. I'm thinking mathematics here.
Okay, so there's the mathematics of the more offensive the joke, the bigger the laugh, right? You can talk about anything, but you have to get a big laugh. So if you bring up something, let's go as offensive as we can. Let's say you make a joke about Holocaust, right? You better be getting yourself a real good laugh, right? If you don't get a real good laugh, you're just being offensive.
Right.
But if you have a payoff that's good enough and witty enough, then you can really get away with anything. But I've had times when it hasn't worked, and that's why I don't want you fucking videotaping the show, because I'm having a go here.
So you're going to try that at the Comedy Store?
I'm going to try that at the Comedy Store. Nothing about the Holocaust. Hey, but I'm going to try the Lee Harvey Oswald, John Wilkes Booth, Michael J. Fox routine. That's going to be my new bit that I'm going to try tomorrow night.
So Jim Jefferies is. Would you call yourself would you call Jim Jefferies? I don't know if there's two personalities here, but would you call Jim Jefferies a real observer of life? I mean, is that who you are as a bloke?
No, I don't know if I'm wanky enough to say that about myself, but
No, but you don't have to. I mean, like, not wanky, but you genuinely curious about everything.
Yeah, I think I got personality traits that if you take me to a party, I'm going to ramble on the whole time, and I'm going to annoy a lot of fucking people and that type of stuff. And it's probably better on stage. And so I found an outlet for the skill that I have in life, which is talking underwater. So maybe I would have been good on radio, but even now I didn't let you fucking talk, did I?
No, but I should. But I should let you talk because that's my role. But what I'm sort of interested in is that are you walking around the streets or looking at the newspapers or watching the television or whatever and saying, "Fuck, that's fucking interesting."
There's a little bit, but mostly routines come from these days. Is all my friends are stand-up comedians. They're all my friends. They're all the people I know. And so when the news happens or when there's something happening in your life, you ring them up. And it's very hard to soundboard routines on non-comedians. They can't see it.
Yeah.
And other comedians can see it. And they'll go, I add this line to take away that line, blah, blah, blah. Other comedians can see it. My wife can't see it. I've tested out so many jokes on her and she can't. She goes, why is that funny? And then she sees it live and I can see her laughing in the audience. But she can't see it. So for the most part, when you say observations, you make an observation, you ring up your best mate, and you go, "What do you think of this?" And then he goes, "I got a bit," and you help each other with your tags.
Really?
And then you go on. Yeah. There's a good camaraderie for the most part between comedians. There's very few comedians who hate each other or anything like that. For the most part, we're all pretty solid with each other.
Pretty collaborative.
Yeah, it's like not collaborative because you're still working by yourself, but you help out your mates, you know what I mean? But often if you get off stage, even a comic who doesn't know you very well will say to you, I have a tag. And just another punchline to add on to the end of the joke to get one extra laugh. And so we give each other tags all the time.
Do you do that?
Yeah.
For others?
If I can help another comic out, for sure, yeah. If I got a line, it's their routine. If I got a line that can help them out, for sure.
Well, you text them.
Oh, no, you just tell them. No, because also comedy doesn't read very well.
Yeah.
I've never understood. Comedy reads terribly. See, look at it this way, right? So comedy is a visual and audio art form, right? You can have silent comedies but visual and audio art form, it never reads brilliantly. If you were to read...
You mean in a text you're talking about?
Even I find it very hard when I'm reading a comedy script to sort of see it, sometimes, if you were to read a novelisation of the Three Stooges, right, how depressing would that be?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We think it's stupid.
It's a story of three men with diminished mental capacity trying to look for work. They're homeless. Three homeless men with diminished mental capacity looking for work during the Great Depression.
Mo, Larry and Curly.
Yeah. How? And then everything is like, then he smashed him in the head with a bat. It sounds like a horror film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't read funny, but those three men made it really, really funny.
So is it the theatre though? The theatre is their theatre that makes it funny?
Oh, people have funny bones, don't they? Some people have funny bones and some people don't have funny bones. And that's why, you can't teach people to be funny, but over time they can learn, if they are funny, they can learn to be good comedians. You know what I mean? But you can't inherently teach someone to be funny. In the same way, you can't make someone musical. You can't. I do believe that over time you could probably teach an actor.
It's funny.
I think acting's all confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's, and understanding the routine. So knowing what's in front of you and being confident. You're right. It's funny you should say that about music because my mother made me learn the piano up until year 12. I didn't. In HSC. Yeah. But I played piano like fucking merry-go-round music. I could play it. I knew what I was doing. I could read the music, but I didn't have a musical bone in my body.
You didn't have the musicality. It was surgeon through.
Whereas my brother, I could listen to something and walk away and start playing it. I could never do that. I could put it in front of him. I could do it. And I think your point's a really good point. Like and I've never thought about a comedian, but the same applies to comedians. What you're saying?
Yeah. But funny is inherent in you. You have funny bones. Well, yeah. So I got two brothers, and I don't think I'm being rude to either of them by saying this. One of my brothers, and he knows which one, is also got the funny gene. My father has the funny gene, and my mother and my other brother do not. They didn't have the funny gene. My mother had amazing stage presence. She was a school teacher that when she walked in the room, all the kids sat up and stopped talking. But she had nothing to say. My dad has no stage presence, and he's one of the funniest people I've ever met. It could have gone the opposite way for me, you know. And my brother's very funny. And I look at my nephews and nieces and my sons, and me and the funny brother, we look at them like we're on the Jedi Council, like the Force is strong with this one, right? and I don't think they'll be upset. But out of my nephews and nieces, I have one niece who's got it. She's got it in spades. And my eldest boy, but we don't know about the 3-year-old yet. I sense he might have it. My eldest boy has it as well. You know
What about your missus?
my wife's got a good sense of humour. She's very funny, and my eldest boy's mother is a very funny person. But my son, he's got it. He's got the gene, and my niece has the gene. And the 3-year-old I think has the gene, but it's too hard to tell with this youngling whether he's gonna have the Force strong with him. But it's a wonderful moment when you go, oh, he's got it. And I think it's no different than an athlete throwing the ball to their son and going, oh, he just did that little thing with his hands, that little flick on. Or
Good eye-hand coordination.
Yeah, your hand-eye coordination, or just little intuitive things, to be a great like rugby league player or something. It's not just enough to be fast and strong and have good hands. There's also you've got to feel the players around you, when to pass and stuff like that. Intuition that other players don't have.
Yeah, this great instinct. It makes you look like you've got more time than everybody else on the field.
Yeah.
Andrew Johns, like so much time. Do you follow footy?
Mate, I'm trying to get the North Sydney Bears back in the cup.
Well, they might end up being in the West Australian team.
You think, I don't know, I'm part of the consortium trying to get them going.
But do you think they should be?
Yes.
Do you think they should keep the name Bears along with the West Australian name?
I'm not investing money if they don't keep the name Bears. I'm not investing money unless they're red and black.
Yeah.
I don't care if there's a new. I want
As
the
in
Bears
the old
back.
stripes.
Yeah, no, just those colours.
Just
the
those
red,
colours.
the red and black, and the Bears. And I don't want to change the logo. Just keep the bit underneath that says 1908. That bit's vital.
No, they 1908 were they?
1908. They're one of the original teams.
One of the foundation clubs.
Foundation club, right? 1908, where it says North Sydney over the top, just write Perth. That's all we got to do, right? And then the jersey, they can play around with it and put their own stamp on it for Western Australia. But if I move back to Australia, and I intend on doing this in my life, I don't intend on retiring and living in America. And I love America. I'm very proud to be an American citizen. America's done a lot for me. My wife's British, but if one day I'll live in Australia again. When I was an old man, I'll live in Australia, and I'm going to live in Perth. I love Perth.
By the way, they tell me you'll really hit the ball out of the park with your missus.
Oh, she's all right. My wife's good looking.
You've killed it.
I do all right. No,
I don't know. I just thought, but my team here just been saying, my God, his missus.
I mean, your wife's a good looking woman. Yeah, but she's too good looking for me.
I was going to say, like, what's the deal? How'd you meet her?
I got more money than her. That's
helpful. How'd you meet her?
I met my wife on an app, dating app. There's a dating app called Raya, which is for the famous, rich, and the good looking.
Really?
And my wife is an actress, and at that stage she was in a TV drama called The Resident, which is one of those medical procedural shows. And I was doing the Jefferies show at that stage, and I was on the app, and we paired up, and it's just so happened she lived 300 metres from my house.
No.
Yeah, and she's just a couple of streets up around the corner, right?
In London or something?
In LA.
In LA.
And so she was living up the road. I was at that stage a single dad, and my ex was living down the road, and I had my son 1 week on, 1 week off. And so on those weeks off, I was dating, trying to get me, fine. Yeah. All they are job interviews, aren't they? That's every day. It's a job interview. You're trying to employ someone. We'll give you a 3-month, trial period, see how it goes.
No obligations.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so I started dating my wife, and I think she wouldn't have given me a second or third date if I didn't live so close. She was just like...
Convenience.
there's a shag around the corner. You know what I mean? She was like,
Was she practical? That's good.
I can shag this bloke until I find someone better. And I won her over because my wife's British, and there's footage of me on the Bill Maher show. I got a bit heated in a discussion on the Bill Maher show, and I told Piers Morgan to go fuck himself, and I gave him the finger, and they had to cut to an ad break. And
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got all fired up, and I thought, so.
What was the top? What were you arguing over?
Look, this was back when Trump had just gone in, and do you remember the Muslim ban?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and
you had a whole routine about that.
It wasn't. They say, it wasn't a Muslim ban. It wasn't a Muslim ban. It was just people from Arab countries, but they weren't being allowed in even with their green card. You know, it was like at that stage, it was like a thing. And so Piers Morgan, this is what really happened. That wasn't what I was fired up about. I just didn't like Piers Morgan, right? Now, Piers Morgan and me got into an argument. For the life of me, I can't remember what it is. I haven't been on Twitter for over 7 years.
But you got the argument was on Twitter, though.
Yeah, so on Twitter, way before that, Piers Morgan and me got into a little verbal like a little written altercation. Yeah. Then cut to, and I didn't think anything of it. I was just happy, get a bit of press from each other, And then I was booked to do the Bill Maher show. And he sends me a direct message, and all he writes to me is he goes, "I'll be sitting 6 feet away from you. You better bring your A game." And I was like, "Fuck that cunt." Right?
It's on.
I was like, it's on. If he fucking starts, and my little bit of autism kicked off, I was like, oh, I've got to talk to him fucking if he comes at me. And so I'm sitting there, and he brings up that, and I said, "You're full of fucking shit, mate." I said, "You're just happy that you're friends with the president, mate. That's all you're happy about, because you're on a little fucking game show, and you can suck up to that bloke. You're a fucking dickhead." I went him a bit like that, and he goes, "Oh, please. You're losing your audience." And I turned to the crowd. Now, this could have been a career-ending moment, right? I turned to the crowd and went, "Have I lost you?" If they were silent, I'm done for.
Yeah, cooked.
Cool. Yeah, I go, "Have I lost you?" And they went, "Rah!" And I went, "What are you, fuck off?" Like, I went for it like that. And then they had to cut to an ad break, right? And my social media, the whole world was going crazy in that moment. The whole internet started talking about. Anyway. So I said to my wife, she goes, "I like the Bill Maher show." That was her favourite comedian, Bill Maher. And I said, I told Piers Morgan to fuck off on the Bill Maher show. And then in that moment, she watched
You're
it.
hired.
She didn't know it was me, but then she goes, "You're the bloke." And I went to the bathroom, and I came back, and she was on her phone, and she was talking to her mum, because my wife's quite posh English, and so she still calls her parents mummy and daddy, as they do, and that type of thing. And she goes, "Mummy, remember the man who told Piers Morgan to fuck off? I'm at dinner with him right now." And I'm like, so me and Piers have no problem anymore, because I wouldn't have met my wife wouldn't have married me unless I told him to fuck off. So
did you reconnect with him?
Well, I tell you what, the other day, I got no problem with Piers Morgan. So after the Piers Morgan thing, people got online and spread it and all that type of stuff. And he tried to sort of say, pull up some old jokes where I said offensive things and try to make the audience turn on me a bit. And J.K. Rowling's, like she said, watching Piers Morgan get told to fuck off on TV was as satisfying as I hoped it would be, right? And Piers Morgan, he must have had a real fucking bug up his ass about the whole thing, because he goes, "I'm hardly going to be told off by a woman who writes books about wizards." You're like, mate, the Bible has sold more.
Yeah.
Literally, only the Bible has sold more. Like you can make anything,
and that's been around for 2,000 years selling. So yeah, but she's only been around a short period.
You
so
can make anything
more.
Seem small by breaking it down to wizards. What I mean? And so Piers Morgan's son has, I believe, a Hogwarts tattoo on his forearm. And so he posts a picture of the tattoo and goes, "Oh, this has become awkward," right? So from that moment on, I was sort of enjoying it a little bit. I was like, okay, so Piers, it all dies down. I got no problem with Piers Morgan, and I don't think he does either. I think he attracts that type of attention. That's what he wants. Maybe that little moment backfired for him, but for the most part, when he's talking about Meghan Markle or something like that, he wants to be talked about. That's his thing, that's his game, And so he was doing the interview with the lady from Baby Reindeer, You know, the real person who was a stalker. And I love Baby Reindeer. And then I had to tune into Pierce's show to watch that thing. And so I put out a little post on my social media. I said, Piers Morgan did a very good job here. And I put a picture and a link to the thing. And he reposted it. So I don't know if we're cool, but I think we're on the right track. You know, so me and Piers are probably good.
That's a fucking great story.
If I met Piers Morgan, as I said, I'd give the man a hug, mate. My son wouldn't have been born without him. You know what I mean? Yeah, so fucking thanks, Piers.
Can we talk about Trump?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I know
it gets you into a lot of trouble because the problem with the Trump thing is you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You know, as a comedian, because half the nation not even half the nation's Republican, and then 20% of them are super Trumpy, right? And the people who are really into Trump, they get very angry when you joke about him, but it's very hard as a comedian not to joke about him, especially during that first run when he's going grab him by the pussy. We didn't think he was going to win. So to tease a man that's saying grab him by the pussy and all this type of stuff, of course we were going to make jokes about it, you know? And I'm not a big Trump fan. I think, but I'm
why
not.
not? What, is it? You're not a big Trump fan or not a big Republican fan?
No. I'm okay. So
more liberal.
Look,
US liberal.
Look, I'll be honest with you. If I was to vote here in Australia, I'm a bit more right wing than you think I am. Right? I'm not. But
Peter Dunn's watching this, by the way.
Yeah. I'm more right wing than you think I am. That's all I'm going to say on that. But when I'm in America, they think I'm basically a bloody communist because being right wing being left wing in America means, okay, I believe in gun control, I believe in universal health care, right? And I believe in a woman's right to do what she wants with her body. So those three things, health care, guns and abortion, they're the poster children for the fucking Republican Party. That's what they want. And in America, as long as they keep talking about those three things over and over and over, they can fuck you in the ass with taxes all they fucking want, right? Because all we're arguing is abortion. And they did it in the debate. Abortion, guns, healthcare, right? So I am left-leaning in America, and that makes me
liberal.
Yeah, I'm somewhat of a socialist.
Yeah,
right. I believe in a society where we take care of our most vulnerable.
Yeah,
I believe in housing for the homeless. I believe all these different things, but fuck. There's lots of tax things that I'm right wing about. There's a lot of shit that I'm very right wing about, but as an Australian, I'm a right-wing Australian, left-wing American. So I'm in a terrible position in my career because people from the left, the extreme left, they don't like me. People from the extreme right fucking hate me. And my fans are the 80% of the population who are in the middle, who for most of us, we just shut the fuck up. Just go, I don't want to talk to either of you about it, right? But the problem I have is when the right wing go for me, I don't have the left defending me, and when the left go for me, I don't have the right defending me.
But how do they go for you? Like you mean
just people
just trolling you?
Trolling, saying rubbish about you, or untruths about you, or whatever.
But what do you do? Do you just ignore it? Do you respond?
No. I don't even bloody bother about it. There's only one thing that matters in my career. There's only one thing that matters, and that's ticket sales.
Yeah.
Right? And if they drop, I'll ask what's going on. But until then, you just keep talking. Like even now, there's people watching this podcast who don't agree with half the shit I've said already. You know what I mean? But I hope that you understand that we're all different, aren't we? And you've got little things about you that you believe in that I'm not going to agree with. Like this idea that we have to be all one way or all the other.
Oh,
I'm right wing on some subjects and left wing on other subjects. And it depends. I go subject to subject. You're never going to, I don't think, I think I pay too much taxes in California. I know I do. It's too much, and I don't get anything in fucking return. I'm very right wing about that. I tell you, because American tax system is fucked.
In California's fucked.
It's fucked. It's fucked.
Yeah, totally.
It's fucked. And now and if I have to hear another Democrat say, "Well, the 1% need to be paying more taxes," they fucking are. They are. It's the 1% of the 1% who's not paying the, you start getting tax money from fucking Amazon. What are you bothering me for? I'm paying through the fucking wazoo, you know what I mean? So it's like, there's always a scapegoat, that these people aren't doing enough, and this is why our society. So in America, I pay all these fucking taxes, and what do I get in the end? More military. I get more military. Fix the fucking pothole in my street and get rid of all the homeless people and put them into fucking housing. Work on the fucking mental health of all the soldiers that have come back from the wars and are all fucked up in their head. How about we work on that for a little bit and stop spending it on more missiles? It turns out that in America, guess what? They've made enough weapons. They've made enough weapons to last forever. And I used to think that, oh no, we got to be strong because, what about Russia and China? Have you been fucking, they can't take over the Ukraine, mate. You're worried about Russia.
Together.
Yeah, they've got, the Russians have technology from fucking Top Gun, and not Maverick, the original Top Gun. Just that old shit. And the Chinese, we were worried about them for fucking ever. They sent a spy balloon, not a drone. They sent a spy balloon over America for 3 days. Yeah, for 3 days. On the news, we talked about the spy balloon. The slowest moving, largest vehicle that mankind's ever created is what they sent. We've got enough guns. We've got enough weapons. We're fucking good. Start spending it on the actual people. And so me saying, start spending on the people. Healthcare, housing, that's called socialism. And socialism in America might as well be called communism. That's how when they hear that word, they hear the word communism. And so I will never talk on stage in America about healthcare because I've tried doing it and they'll never understand. They will never see why that's a good thing. They'll go, but why should I be paying something when other people aren't paying enough and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, dude, and part of their problems is that they're next to Canada and the Canadian healthcare system's not the best. The Canadian healthcare system is everybody gets the same healthcare. A homeless person to the Prime Minister gets the same healthcare. With the Australian and British system where you can have public healthcare plus you can have private on top, there's no private on top in Canada. Wow. Right? So they're always going, those people up there are waiting too long for their surgeries. Because really, what is healthcare? What is private healthcare? All private healthcare is I get to jump the queue for my surgery, and when I'm in hospital, I get my own room. That's the only difference in public to whatever. Yeah, I'm fucking gone. I've probably lost a lot of fans with this rant right now.
So when you, but it's sort of interesting to me because when you go off to say like Austin, Texas, which is like, red territory.
Not Austin. Austin's the blue in the sea of red.
Is that right? Because I did listen to one of your shows there, and you had them going. You had them in the palm of your hand.
Oh, you actually came to my show in Austin?
I was there.
Oh, brilliant.
And no, I'm just joking.
Oh, you were? Oh, okay.
But I have listened to it. But you had them, but you were bagging the shit out of Trump.
Oh, that was in Nashville.
Nashville,
Which
Nashville.
is the same a horse of a different colour,
Yeah,
but the
totally.
same
They're
thing.
blue.
Yeah.
No, they're red. They're red. They're
red.
fully red. So as opposed to the opposite here in Australia, of course, but red, blue. Anyway, but you had them going, and they loved it. You were bagging the shit out of Trump, basically.
Yeah. They have no problem with that. And there's also a lot of Republicans who aren't Trump Republicans.
Yeah.
They want to go back. Remember when we thought that like George W. Bush was a nut job warmongering type of thing, and now he's a delightful old man that dances around a bit before, you know what I mean? He's a fun little fella. I'll tell you a Texas story about, so I was playing, I believe it was Dallas, and I'd done the gun control thing, and before I went down to play Dallas, I had to cancel the show a few months earlier because there was a gun threat.
You?
Yeah, to the theatre. Someone was going to come and shoot up the theatre. And so Texas is the only place, incidentally, where we had metal detectors for the shows and people had to turn in their guns. And we had a Tupperware container of bloody guns that you get it back after class. You can't have it in the show. Wow. And they felt unsafe without their gun, But anyway, so the gun control thing, even with what happened with Trump the other day with the assassination, there's people now have been writing to me saying, oh, well, where was your gun control now? And you're like, doing exactly what is, first of all, he shouldn't have had a gun. And men that knew what they were doing eliminated the threat. The people seem to think that if all the punters in the crowd all had their guns, maybe he wouldn't have gotten up on that tower or something, but then you'd be, you know what I mean? But if those gunshots went off, they all would have pulled it out. We wouldn't have known who the shooter was. It would have been fucking mayhem. You need an us and them mentality, Anyway, so I had to cancel my gig to go back to Texas, and then they rescheduled it, and the threat hadn't really gone away. And so I was like, all right, I got to do the show, and I don't want people to panic, and I don't think the threat's real. So there's no point telling you. So we go back to the theatre, and I rang the cops up, and I said, can we have a sort of bit more of a presence at the show? And they said, well, you know, you can pay.
Yeah, charge.
So in America, you can buy cops in uniform on their off time as their second job to do your personal security for you, which is what I did. So I bought, I believe, 8 or 9 cops. And I had 2 on the edge of the stage, and I had them at each exit door. And so there was a big, and then they metal detected in. I've never seen a comedy show with more sort of security. And I'm in my dressing room. I got there 2 hours before the show. And I normally get there about 30 minutes before the show, but because of this incident, I wanted to know what was going to happen and all the protocols. And I'm in my dressing room, and the dressing room next to me, all the cops are being briefed. And they're all sitting around there, and the police officer goes, okay, I'm going to need one of you on each door. You can pick your door. I don't care which door you want to pick. You know, it's fine. And who wants to be the 2 cops at the edge of the stage? Right? And one of the cop goes like this, hey, why are we even here, Sarge? And he goes, well, this particular comedian has been getting death threats. Well, why has he been getting death threats? Well, he does a routine about gun control. And then one of the cops who was paid to protect me said, maybe you should learn to shut his fucking mouth then.
Oh, my God. How'd you feel?
Yeah, I don't reckon this cunt's going to dive in front of a bullet between me and you. I reckon I might be left out there. You know, and that same cop, he had a big tash and he had those boots over the pants. Yeah, he's like a highway cop sort of guy. Every joke, he just sort of throughout the show. He wasn't having a good time. He didn't like me or what I had to say. I was a pain in the ass for him.
I think it's really funny the way you sort of talk about Trump in terms of his simplicity, the way he sort of speaks, his simplicity in his speech, his language, his topics, his content. Like, how do you get away with it? Like, do you ever get a phone call from Trump's people? No one's ever said, hey.
No one.
Dude.
They don't worry about things like that. No, I said about Trump, I said, I had some clip that went good about how, what was the fucking routine? It went viral. There was a routine about, what was it about? Oh, it was just like, don't be an asshole, and just like, you know, I can't remember what it was. It was something about the lead with love or something. It was a very sort of
love versus hate.
Love versus hate was my routine. Love versus hate, and if you love won't always beat hate.
Hate on hate doesn't work.
Hate and hate.
Love can get on top of hate sometimes.
Love can beat hate, not always.
And you said I don't want to sound like too hippie type of stuff.
Too hippie a scenario. Yeah. That was the routine that I did, right? Too hippie a thing, right? So love can beat hate and all this type of stuff. And it was something that I just sort of said in passing. Like, I maybe said it a couple of times, and I said it on the recording just thinking it wouldn't make the cut, and it went viral and all that type of stuff. And then I did a few jokes on my TV show about him, and then I did the grab him by the pussy routine. I did a whole grab him by the pussy thing. And he was just a very easy sort of buffoonish sort of a man to make fun out of.
But is there a political content behind it, though? Is there?
No, I would never vote for Trump, but I'd never vote for Biden.
Yeah.
I believe that every celebrity will tell you to make sure you get out there and vote. That's the celebrity catchphrase after an election. They'll all post themselves with their sticker, I voted. Make sure you vote. No, don't vote. We deserve better than this. We deserve better options than a fucking lunatic and a senile old man. And they're both fucking old as well. We should just let those 2 men vote. That's it, just those 2. And they have to vote on an iPad. And whichever one can do it without the help from their grandchild, they get to run the free world. You know what I mean? like we deserve more. Yeah, it's just.
But what is that? Like, I mean, you live in the States. I mean, what the fuck? Why is it such a shitty choice? I mean, how come?
A lot of people believe that, but so Joe Biden, for the most part, whether you agree with his policies or whatever, he has been a good public servant. He has dedicated his life to being a public servant, whether you agree with him or not. Trump has had many different lives before he became this guy. He's been a businessman, a real estate guy, TV presenter to the president. He's had, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, different lives until he got to that thing. Biden's had one life. Same life, public service. And there's things I've liked about Joe Biden. I've always felt, I've had tragedy in my life, right? He lost his wife and his 5-year-old child in a car accident, you know what I mean? And he's not a good talker, Joe Biden. He's not a great talker. But whenever he talked to people who lost their children in an incident or something like that, even if it was like a school shooting or something like that, when he spoke from the heart, it was quite beautiful because you knew he'd been through it, you know what I mean? So I always had a soft spot for him in that because, you can be the most powerful man in the world, but doesn't bring his child back. Doesn't bring his child back, right? So I always had a soft spot for him for that. But, and I look his policies, and I don't want to get into what's going on in Israel and Palestine, and I'm not going to get into that fucking debate, and whether I agree or not with those type of things. And do I think he's done enough for certain things, or do I think he's covered all of his promises? No, not really, right? But he could have gone out on a high. He could have stood up at the Democrat. See, we all fluff lines, right? He could have stood up at the Democrat convention and handed the torch over to someone else and gone, thank you so much, and I'm proud to be American, and thank you for having me. And he would have been left a hero. The man who defeated Trump, the man who got the Democrats back in. But all he will be remembered for is a bitter old man who wouldn't give up power, a petty old person.
Or do you think?
I don't think there's a chance in hell he can win.
No, but do you think he's doing it out of the greater good and sort of says there's no one else he really believes there's no one else can defeat Trump?
I think that would be ego. There must be something so intoxicating about power. I don't know what it is because I wouldn't want that. So what do we had, like 45, 46 presidents or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like 5 of them have been killed?
Yeah.
That's not a good stat. It's not a stat that
statistically not good.
Not a job I'd want.
No.
Or 1 in 9 chance I'm going to die.
Yeah.
1 in 9 chance I'm going to be killed. And not only that, half the population fucking hates you.
Yeah.
Right? And at the end, you get paid fuck all. And then the rest of your life, you have to have public servants and all that type of stuff and security around you all the bloody time.
Because someone's going to knock you.
But there must be something wonderful about it. Why do they want it? Why does Ruth Bader Ginsburg not give it up? Why does that, what's the name, Steinberg or whatever, she was one of the things, she was buddy in her 90s and she was holding on to her fucking job, right? Mitch McConnell. Why am I watching this old cunt fucking not giving up power? They have to hold on to this. Like, do you get blowjobs all the time? What happens?
Well, Clinton did.
Well, yeah, not all the time though. Maybe more than we thought. But what is so wonderful about this power? My theory is that the job only attracts psychopaths.
That's interesting.
Only because who else would want to do it? Who else would get anything out of that? Why would you ever? I understand getting into politics and maybe wanting to make a difference and all that, but running the free world? Fuck that.
Do you mean American politics though, or you mean everywhere generally? What about here?
I would say anywhere. You can't tell me. I'll go both sides of the party, right? From my childhood, right? How many times did John Howard keep fucking going for it, just wanting it? Paul Keating, the whole time, was sitting behind Bob Hawke, just
desperate.
What did they want so desperately? What do you get out of it? And it's this sense of maybe going as high in life as you can go, going as far as you can go. Now, I understand that, maybe going, let's see how far I can take this life. Let's see how high I can go. Let's see how popular I can get or important I can be. But Biden did it. He did it. He was vice president for 2 terms and he was president for a term. And now he's going to be remembered as this bloke who wouldn't give up power when he was very clearly, dementia is a strong word, but my brain's not as sharp as it was 10 years ago. I'm a bit more forgetful, stumble over me words a little tiny bit. If fucking 82, I'm going to be fucking dribbling, right? And you're like, you can't rule the bloody world. And what's wrong with just sitting on your ass and watching telly?
But do you think he might be getting influenced by his wife? the first lady?
No, if I was his wife, and especially like his son has been dragged through the mud for things that he did do. Although that's funny, isn't it? Bloody, he gets done. He gets done for fucking having a gun in an inappropriate place, right? And the Republicans are like, got him. It's like, so you do agree with some gun control?
Yeah.
You do agree that we should at times have some gun control. And even with, mate, Donald Trump, he fucking, why the hush money, she signed a contract, mate. She signed a non-disclosure. Why are we getting into her? She's meant to be hushing. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, totally.
He didn't do anything illegal with the hush money. What he did was the funding of the money coming out of the wrong funds and that type of stuff. But she should have been shutting up about that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with hush money because she took the money to be quiet.
She took the money to be quiet. You didn't make her do anything. And you know, if anything, I think for a man of his wealth, she gave him a very reasonable price. 150 grand. I think it's a bloody very reasonable price.
Maybe she's filthy that she could have got more.
Well, she should have asked for bloody more.
She should have. I guess I've just been watching and listening to like the energy that comes out is fucking crazy.
Oh, is it?
No, it's mental. Like I'm telling you, really, mental energy, like really good. And if I wind it back, and I know that you've given up the grog and you stopped drinking.
Yeah.
Does drugs, alcohol, whatever, does that make you more energetic or less energetic? What does that do? What does that do to
see,
Jim
that's
Jefferies?
the whole thing. Is like the amphetamines are meant to calm you down with the attention deficit disorder and all that type of stuff. And you're meant to be, you take them, it makes you focus, and you watch the fucking TV, and but for other people, like Trump's meant to be on Adderall the whole time. He's meant to be.
Is he? Trump
That's
is?
what people reckon. That's what I can't speak for this, but that's what people reckon. He's on the Adderall.
A big American drug.
Oh yeah. But it's basically Dexedrine or whatever.
It's Dexies.
It's Dexedrine. It's trying to. It's like attention. It makes you focus and do exams very quickly and memorize a speech or whatever. Weed came into my life very late in life when I was only into uppers and not downers, and I've never been into painkillers or anything like that.
So you weren't smoking hot ones or anything like that?
No, just edibles.
Yep.
And when it became legal, I only ever took legal weed. It was the only drug that I ever took legally, And then there was shops, and you just buy gummy bears, and you buy this, and you buy
This is in
that.
California, not every state.
Yeah, California. Yeah. But in saying that, they let you travel around America with it for the most part. They made a press release from LAX airport saying, "Stop trying to hide it. We're not looking for it."
Right.
You're allowed, like, that's the other end's problem. You know what I mean? So I found that weed. I don't think I could have become a pothead if I was single. I needed alcohol to lubricate my confidence to be able to talk to women or have a thing, because weed makes me the opposite of what I am right now. Weed makes me sit back in a chair and just watch telly with me wife and not be the whole fucking time. So weed came into my life and really changed things up. And then when I got into weed and I'd already given up alcohol and I was sort of struggling with quitting alcohol, and then I took up weed and I never struggled with the alcohol again. I don't ever want to drink again. I don't like what I became on alcohol. And
What do you become like?
I became a sloppy drunk. I became what the Americans referred to as a lush.
But like as in, what we would call a lush is somebody who wants to go around darting everybody.
Oh, no. I wasn't an aggressive drunk, but I was a guy. Right?
Yeah, dribbling.
Sloppy, dribbly person, a guy you wouldn't want around.
Yeah.
And I used to be what they call a very good drinker, but was I? I was just on cocaine. So a decade before that, I was this guy on stage drinking 9-10 pints of alcohol. And people going, this guy is a champion drinker.
Yeah,
I was just coked up.
On top of the group,
on top of the booze. The cocaine made me keep drinking.
Yeah.
And I was drunk in my head, but I was steady as a fucking die to talk to you because of the cocaine. You know what I mean? And I don't think I was what you call a terrible asshole on either one of those drugs, but I do believe that my restraint with my tongue or saying stupid things went away, which is both a powerful thing and a curse.
You lost your judgment, or you?
My judgment went away. I never got into fist fights really. I got into one in Boston that I would have walked away from if I wasn't drunk, but to this day, I wasn't at fault in that fight, but a sober person would have walked away. But the person pushed me first, and then I went for him, and then, you know, like that type of thing. So you go, well, that's not good. And, you know, I'm more argumentative or whatever. You know, I wasn't a terrible, nasty drunk, but you know, you could get the very happy version of me as well. It was very nice. But I could say some nasty comments, you know, every now and again. I could be a bit more mean, I guess.
So now though,
that's what I was saying. I wouldn't be on, I'm not high right now. I don't plan on getting high tonight. I'm not high every night of the week. It'll be a couple of days a week. A couple of days a week, I take an edible. I watch, man, I got young kids. I have to watch a lot of fucking Pixar movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we does a lot of heavy lifting for those films. You know what I mean? But my son's funny because I'm always very open with who I am and what I'm doing and all that type of stuff. And my wife, my son, who has inherited the wonderfulness of dyslexia, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. My father hasn't.
But you don't have him on the Dexter's
No. My son's a lovely boy, and he's very gentle like his mother, very gentle, funny lad, not just that. But so me and the wife were there when my son was, I don't know, 7, and he was still having problems spelling and all that type of stuff. 7's a bit old to be having these problems, you know. He wasn't quite getting it. We had him in tutors and all that type of stuff. And so I walked into the room, and I guess I was being overly friendly, and my wife went to me. She goes, "Are you HIGH?" Right? And I said, no, right? And then my son goes, "I can spell, you know." And I said, "Oh yeah, mate, what does HIGH spell?" And he went, "Drunk." And that was when I just crossed over to the other way, you know, to being high over booze, you know, because it's been 1,200 and something days. It's March 10th, 3 and a bit years ago was my last alcoholic beverage.
Yeah, and do you have to do you see people about it, or you just
I tried going to AA for a bit, and it wasn't for me. And I appreciate that AA works for other people, but it didn't work for me in the sense that I like to pack things up and put them away, not bury them, but I like things to be behind me. I like my mistakes. I like to apologise for my mistakes and move forward.
And try not to do it again.
That's what I like to do. You know what I mean? There's no point having to fucking constantly go to meetings and talk about how shit I was a few years ago.
Yeah, because you know well enough.
Yeah, I know well enough. And that's just for me. And other people, it really works.
Yeah.
And what happened was as well, it was during COVID, and a comedian friend of mine, I won't mention anyone's names because it's called anonymous for a reason. During COVID, a friend of mine who's an alcoholic, I couldn't stop drinking at one stage. I just couldn't stop drinking, and as soon as I went back out on the road, they started opening up clubs. I was just a mess. I'd given up other drugs so long ago, and I couldn't. People thought I was really spiraling, but it was just I wasn't doing cocaine. I was just sloppy, and I was just stumbling and falling over out the front of comedy clubs.
Just alcohol affected.
Yeah, and I have no interest in having one beer. I don't understand one beer. If I'm drinking, I'm drinking. And I'm even the same way with food. I keep my weight off by fasting for 2 days. That's the only way I can do it. I'm either all or nothing. So during my fast days, you're meant to eat under 500 calories. I eat nothing. I've eaten nothing today. I won't eat anything today because food doesn't exist. I've got to remember that. Food doesn't fucking exist, right?
That's pretty powerful though, if you can think that way.
Yeah. So it's like I'd like to eat today, but sadly food doesn't exist. You know, so I can do that Mondays and Wednesdays. I don't eat, right? And so the same with alcohol. If I had one beer, I was having until I was obliterated. That's all I cared about was going until I was obliterated. And so I broke down, and I remember I called my manager and my agent up, my American manager and agent, not my Australian one who's here in the other room. And I broke down in tears, and they wanted me to do a gig, and I said I can't leave the house right now because I can't control it. I said I can't control it, I never admitted to other people that I had a problem ever until then. I said I can't control it, and so I started. Another comedian who I knew was sober, but I didn't know the extent of how his life what he'd been through. He'd rang me up. And me and him weren't great mates before this. We're good friends now. But he rang me up and he talked to me, and he said, look, I have an AA meeting, right? And this AA meeting is just comedians and there's loads of famous people in there, so don't worry that you're going to be, judged by people or whatever. And so there was comedians that I knew who I never even knew were sober, and they were there, and they come to this meeting on Zoom every day. And so I did it for a few weeks, and the biggest problem was that if you do AA, everyone shares, right? I thought about having a drink this week, and then I looked at the bottle of whiskey and I thought to myself, no, not today. And I'm just grateful to be sober today, and maybe not tomorrow, but I'm good today. And the problem was, it was with comedians. Now, as you've experienced on this podcast, comedians like to fucking talk. So everyone shared. Every single fucking meeting. There's about 15 of us, and they were all logging in for 10-minute shares. Oh, it was taking up 3-4 hours of me day. Every fucking day. I don't have enough time to be sober. It's taking up too much of me time. So I went, fuck. There was comics in there. There was one comic, and I won't tell you who. I can tell you after that. There was this one comic. He hadn't had a drink in 30 years. And he was still sharing each fucking day. And I'm just like, when does this cunt stop sharing? He's like, it's been 30 years, 4 days, and 26 hours. Well, we make it 5 days, right? 5 days and 2 hours, 2 hours since my last drink. And I walked past a restaurant. I thought, I used to drink in there, but not today. You know what I mean? I'm just like, the longer you're sober, the less sharing we need. Like if a guy just gets sober last week because he's fucking yelled at his wife or been abusive to his kids or whatever's or he's lost his job, let's hear from that cunt.
Tell me something.
Yeah, that cunt's got a new fresh story to tell.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear about you having problems at the 84 Olympics or some shit. Fuck off.
Can I just quickly talk, before I go, I'm going to get wound up about 100 times over, but I just want to talk quickly about the Channel 7 show.
Sure, 1% Club.
Yeah. So obviously you live in the Americas, so you're not here. Everybody's watching it every day. They're probably thinking you just did it yesterday afternoon. How do you do that show, and how many more series?
There's a big debate down at Channel 7 right now whether I keep my moustache or not. Because I've shown up just with a bit of facial hair, and I think I look like Ian Turpie. There's a rich history. There's a rich history of game show hosts with moustaches. So what we do is we record 10 episodes over 2 weeks, 1 episode a day. Monday to Friday, and we record the episodes, and then there's 1 week of prep work where we write like the little intros and outros and the little jokes. Like people always get angry that I talk over the 30 seconds while you're trying to think of your answer. I have to do that. I can't not talk. There can't be dead air. That's part of my contract that I have to do it. So I apologize. I'm not trying to annoy you. But so I really, it was one of those things that it's like I'd done a bit of acting, and I'd done sitcoms, and I've done panel shows where I was talking directly to camera. And here's the thing, I'm a big game show fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So in my spare time, I watch Jeopardy every day. I like distractions. And game shows where I have to be engaged. I'm answering. I'm not going to check my phone because I've got to get to the next thing. Can I do the thing? The little thing. With the energy that I have in life, I find that to be something that I find very calming. And I've liked game shows my whole life. Do I think that I could have ever been a game show host? No, I never ever thought that anyone would.
But how was the approach made? Like, how did it all work? Like,
I can't.
Just send an application.
I tell you what, it feels like a dream. I can't remember what happened. I remember my manager ringing me up and go, "There's a new game show." Oh no, what happened was when I was out here during COVID, there was I think I'll just tell this, right? I went and did a pilot for I won't say what channel, but they were thinking about bringing Blankety Blanks back.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I love it.
And I was like, yeah, I'll give that a crack, right? And then
Graham Kennedy.
Yeah, the pilot went really good. And that's straight up comedy. That's straight up talking to other comedians, not a game show, straight up comedy. And then the network ummed and ahed, and we went back and forth, and they didn't come back with an answer very quickly. And then I think someone else found out that that pilot went quite well. And they said, there's a new game show that needs a comedian hosting it, not a regular game show host, because there's got to be crowd work involved. And I'm so bad at reading that
As in script.
reading, just reading.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't do the chase.
Yeah.
If I had to have a speed round where I had to go, all right, you have 30 seconds on the clock, let's start now. Which horse was it? Pass. I'd be telling myself
You'd be
to
passing
pass.
the questions.
Yeah. They'd never get an answer out. You've won $1,000. I read one question.
Well, Larry'd be happy about that.
Oh, Larry's all right. Larry's funny. Larry and me talk online every now and again. I've done the morning show. And then Larry, sometimes people talk to me a bit more. They're a bit more sweary when they talk to me because they think that's what I'm into, you know what I mean? And I said to Larry if he ever wants tickets to the show, and he wrote to me and it started off like this: "Hey, fucker, could I get..." Larry Edmur started the message with, "Hey, fucker." And I was like, Larry, oh my. I was clutching my pearls as I read it. Anyway, so I couldn't do anything. So they said, okay, I would have been a good host of Is It Cake? That's my type of one question. Deal or no deal? I could do deal or no deal all day. One question, deal or no deal. But they said, look, it's only, I think it's 13 questions over 45 minutes. And so I can somewhat practice them before I go out there. I know the 13 questions before I walk out there. So the 1% Club's a good quiz for me because I can just go, okay, half the questions are, what letters are next in this sequence? Oh, I love that with those ones. What letters are next in this sequence? But then there's the other ones. If Bob has 4 pennies and Sam has 12 cents and she has all the pennies and like, I think you can hear the panic in my voice as I read those ones out. I go into shock. I'm just like, I'm gripping the lectern. Just, it's a big one. But luckily, the 1% Club is arguably the only quiz where you could do it without a host. It would be boring, but the questions are up on the screen. They've got the iPads. They've got the questions on their iPads. My read doesn't really affect how they're going to answer it. You know what I mean? Until we get our first blind contestant, and that person's going to fuck me. Right? I'm going to have to get beautiful reads for them, with their fucking Braille iPads or whatever.
Because when I've had the odd occasion where I've turned it on, and I thought, fuck, you're so out of context for me. He just freaks me out. Like, I think you don't even look like the same guy.
Well, I like game shows, but as they said, there's 7 and there's a big debate going around the building whether I keep the tash or not, because we start filming on Friday. Right, so we start filming in 4 days. Do I keep the tash? Do I not? So,
I'm a vote for the tash. Keep the tash.
Well, I reckon I force their hand. I reckon I walk up with a Hitler moustache and see what they say. Just shave it down to the square. Shave it down to the square. Push a bit of hair down.
A final question: are you going to return to our shores? You mentioned something earlier on, but is it like a dream of yours? You want to come back? Do a Paul Hogan, buy a place in Byron Bay. I believe
America was nice enough to make me a citizen, so I'm a proud American. I really am.
But you still got Australian citizenship. You've got dual citizenship.
Yeah,
yep.
But I'm Australian.
Yep.
I was born here. I left this country when I was 20 years old, and I'm 27 now. And I haven't lived here since I was 22 when I left. No, hang on. What was I? I know when I left. I got on a plane in 2001, September 12th.
That's 23 years ago.
Yeah, the Twin Towers were falling as I was packing my bag.
Wow.
Right? So, it's 24, I guess, or something like that. So I haven't lived back here since, but like the great Peter Allen once said, I'd love to suck your cock. No.
He probably would have said that. God bless his soul.
God bless his soul. No, like he once said, don't put a condom on. I don't think I have it. No, I don't. Okay. So, I still call Australia home. I really do. I'm a staunch defender of Australia. And sometimes it might seem like I'm criticising Australia when I'm joke about it overseas or something like that. There's things about Australia I don't like. There's things that, I'll tell you the things I do like. We have the best food in the world.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Nowhere else is fucking close.
Totally.
Right? we don't know how good we have it. I'm not just talking about restaurants. I'm talking about bread.
Yeah.
Fucking a loaf of fucking
Coffee.
bread. The best coffee, the best bread, the best produce.
Yeah.
Everything. You go to a cafe, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Just get a bacon egg sandwich. It's gonna be good. In America, I can find you good places, but a lot of it's shit, filled with sugar and additives and this and that and all that sort of stuff. So just go, like, I've got a box of Gay Times in my freezer. I fucking smash through those cunts in one fucking day. I love that shit, right? There's things I miss.
Don't they have Gay Times in them?
No, they don't have anything that good. I miss a good meatball. I've actually become a master sausage roll maker because I couldn't buy them. So I make them at home for myself. My sausage rolls are top
And what about
tier.
your kids? Do they like them?
Well, my son doesn't mind them. I got to win people. My wife's vegan. It's a whole thing. But I can make a vegan sausage roll as well if I'm feeling nice. Best food in the world. But, you know, look how pale I am.
Pale?
I got burnt as a kid so badly. I was hospitalised once, blisters on me fucking face, right? I don't get that with the other ozone. I hate, but now sunscreen as a kid used to be,
Yeah.
and you smeared it on. Now it's just a shh. My wife doesn't use it. She says it's cancerous. I'm like, give me fucking cancer. Because this is the best invention I've ever had, right? No hat, no play, all that type of bullshit. Like, it was hard, you know, Australian sun and all that type of stuff. And also, there is a little bit of nanny state about Australia that we sort of don't know about us, right? Like, they're lowering the speed limit in most places in Sydney down to 40 kilometres an hour. That's fucking ridiculous.
They're talking about 30.
Yeah.
In the city, especially.
That's ridiculous. You can't get your car out of third gear, right? And then they always put it on us if it saves just one life.
I actually heard someone say that from the city council the other day.
Well, that's a load of,
on the radio.
That's a load of bullshit.
He said if it saves one life.
Yeah, it's not saving any lives. The 60 speed limit wasn't the thing that was killing people. It was the cunts driving at 100 that was killing the people. It was the people not doing the actual speed limit was the reason people were dying. 40, you can fucking walk faster than 30, right? This is ridiculous. You're being ridiculous. And you know what? I can't imagine how many speed cameras I've driven past to get here. And they always put it on us if it saves one life. Fuck off. You're doing it for revenue. Don't fucking lie to us.
Yeah.
You're doing it for fun. So there's certain things like that where I find America is a little... You know what else America... The greatest thing about America? And it would be turning left on a thing. Turning right on a red. Getting to a red light and seeing no one going this direction, this way. It's just a give way sign. You stop and then you... That changes your whole day. That puts a spring in your step.
Sensible.
Bring that in. Oh, sensible. So there's a few things like that. Like, we're the only country in the world that bloody lists a death toll over Easter. Every time I turn on the news, I've got to hear who died in Tasmania and who died in Queensland. It's fucking morbid, right? There's things I don't like. But the bread's better. The people are the fucking best, right? Our beaches are second to none, right? And just the food. And I know this, like, my son who's 11, he's like, I want to be Australian, Dad. I love it.
Oh, really?
But there's things, you know, I want to move to Perth one day and fucking each weekend I go see the Perth Bears.
That's what I was going to say.
I go see the Perth Bears, right? Fucking that would be heaven. That would be wonderful. You know what I mean? I would deeply miss the Dodgers and watching baseball every day. Baseball's a wonderful sport. And did you hear today? You hear today what happened today? Something historical happened today and it hardly made the news.
What was it?
Okay, so Australia's had about 10, 15 baseball players play Major League Baseball, and they've all been relief pitchers. We've never had someone smash the cunt out of a fucking ball over the fucking fence until today. Today, the draft happened, and the number one pick was Travis Bazzana from Oregon State, who went to the Cleveland Indians, or the Cleveland Guardians, as it is now, right? He went to the Cleveland, right? Number one pick. He's a hitter, and the boy was born in Hornsby Hospital, went to Turramurra High, just up the bloody road from me, right, as a kid, and he played for the Ku-ring-gai Bears or something as a kid, right? How is this jewel has come out of the rough? Like, there's no batting cages, there's no coaches, there's no one throwing at him as a kid. My son plays Little League. Half the kids are getting professional training every bloody day. My kid's school has baseball coaches that are just there to coach baseball, right?
And this kid from Ku-ring-gai,
This kid from Ku-ring-gai is not only in the draft, but he's number one.
Wow.
So you heard it here first. We're going to have a young man called Travis Bazana who's going to be the highest paid Australian athlete in a team sport that has ever been, and it hardly made the bloody news. Get on board.
Jim Jefferies, that'll do me.
That'll do me.
Good on you, mate.